Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have the opportunity to work on a Finware Light 30. This is a lever drag reel, solid built, but we have a problem with this one in that, well, it's locked up. It's not going anywhere. Interestingly enough, when you're in the off position, you can turn the spool, but the spool is not turning the handle mechanism. So something has gone on inside that we're going to try and figure out during the course of this video. I'll show you how to take this reel apart, how to do some diagnosis, and hopefully get this reel fishing again. We may discover something that makes that impossible, but hopefully we'll be able to give this reel a second chance. So what we're going to be doing here is a complete disassembly and a diagnosis, and hopefully we'll be able to service it as well if we find what the issue is. So before I get started, I want to encourage all of you to subscribe to my channel. If you have subscribed already, thank you very much for doing so. Your support is appreciated. For those of you that may be interested in how to service fishing reels, or just to understand more about fishing reels, how they're made, who those manufacturers are, and what types of reels there are, well, this is a good channel for you as I try to teach you how to do it yourself. That's the whole idea behind it. Giving you enough information to keep your reels serviced and fishing. Well, I started by removing the handle. I took the nut off first, and now I'm going to take the handle off. And that gives us access to the side plate. So again, we're kind of wondering, this spool is turning in both directions, but the main gear is not turning. So we want to see if we can't figure that out. Well, I'm just kind of going on gut feel right now. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not good. But you can go out to the internet, I'm sure, and find a schematic of these reels that may help you to get an idea of what it is that you're chasing here. So I'm thinking that maybe your main gear just hasn't been set properly. When you take your pieces and parts off, take pictures. Here's the adjuster mechanism for that lever drag. It's going to start in a neutral position where these points are set inside the cavity. And as you turn this, those points are going to raise up on a ramp. You can see the ramp over on this side here. You can also see how it ramps here. So it goes from kind of narrow to wide. That's going to pull this spool that way, and that's going to engage the drag washer with the pressure plate, and that's how you're going to get your variations on tension on your drag washers themselves. Well, I don't think I need to remove this trip ring here to remove the side plate. We'll find out. There's 4 screws here, and that's the next piece I want to take out. And while I do this, I'm going to encourage you to ask questions along the way. If you're working on a reel, if you're curious about how a reel comes together, if you're curious about how it works. Well, I think I just found the answer to that. I can't get that screw out there. So what I'm going to do is just pause the video. I'll go and get the right, well, let's see if we can do this one with a pliers. I generally don't recommend pliers. That's a very small little nut there. If I can get the first twist of that with the pliers and then walk it out by hand, I'll be okay. That seems to be what I'm able to do. Generally, I don't encourage pliers. People get aggressive with pliers. They tend to chew up threads and things like that. I can do this without taking that off if I so chose. There we go. I'm getting it out now, so you might as well. So take your pictures along the way. That's going to give you an indication of how the parts are set on the reel, the orientation of it, and the sequences that you took them out in. For example, this one comes off with the handle. So let's take that off now, put that into the parts that were associated with that. Let's see what we can do here now in terms of removing those screws. Well, it's not feeling very right, is it? Feels like that. Feels like all of these screws are not holding. That's kind of odd. Here's one that's coming out. So not quite sure what's going on. We may have stripped the screws in there. I don't know. They're very short screws. Almost look like the screws from the Jig Masters. All right, now I'm going to be able to start separating that. Maybe that'll put the tension on it to enable me to get these screws out here. It's a shame because they're just not sitting very, very well. I'm wondering, let's see. I'm thinking if I pull this out, the whole thing's going to come out. That's holding the face. Yeah, so we've got some strip screws or strip plates in here. Okay, well I think from what I'm seeing here, this anti-reverse is in a bad place. Let's turn the handle now without any interference. And well, we're right there. This main gear is not turning. That clearly shouldn't be. Let's put the handle back on. All right, so what we have is a grease-choked reel. That's probably why none of this is operating very well. I'm going to hose this down, if you will, flood it with some WD-40. And we'll just kind of crank it around, see if that can't help penetrate the grease, and then enable us to walk that gear out. This is an iterative process. It's one that's just going to take time. So if you've got a favorite beverage that you would like to go get, I would recommend you go get it. I'm not sure if I can press this out, how much luck we're going to have with this, but I'm going to shut the camera off just because you don't need to watch me do this 10 times before it comes out. But I will be back. Well, I'm still having a go at it. I inserted a screwdriver behind and twisted to try and bring this up. I've been fairly successful. I just been reapplying. This has been maybe 15 minutes now. It's been sitting. Reapplying the WD-40. Now I'm trying to pull it out. I seem to be making the progress that I need to. At least we're getting. Oops! There you go. That was an oops. All right, that's out. Take a picture. There's a washer that goes on that stem that we don't want to lose. There's two washers on that stem. Came flying off. And there looks like there's a good amount of something that was probably the cause of the issue here, being some dried grease. Well, let's take generally have a piece of steel wool around here somewhere. There it is. I'm just going to buff this because it's pretty sticky. This is 4-0 steel wool. It's the least abrasive of the steel wools. It's generally meant for polishing. Don't go with the coarse stuff. That's going to really scratch it up good. And I don't know what's on the shaft here, but we're going to have some issues with that as well. Let's clean that up. We know we have these two washers, and I'm probably going to wind up getting the schematic for this just because I want to make sure that those pieces go in the right places on the way back. And let's go ahead. We've got a lot of penetrating oil's been in there from the cleanup, but yeah, there's a lot of dirt and debris, and I'm sure that's probably what the cause of the sticking of that main gear was. This is actually corrosion here, or so it seems. And then I'm going to flood this one more time in the channel. There's a bushing in there. And I'll use a cotton swab here. The goal here is to get this main gear turning. And then I think most of the issue of this reel is probably going to get resolved. bearing is working fine. The bearing's got some old greases on there that have pretty much cleaned up with the penetrating oil getting slopped all over the place. Turns nice and easy. I'm just going to put some oil onto that. I'm sure it's been a while. Let that seep in. These 2 points here are for your anti-reverse dogs here. And we can see that there's a little bit of a broken anti-reverse dog on the one side. This should be a nice tight fork, and for whatever reason that's both been compromised. So believe it or not, if you just take a dead blow hammer like this, you won't see this. But I'm just moving that over to a bench vise, tapping on it. That will close it up. That's all you need to do. Don't go wrenching anything crazy. And these tips don't need to touch. They just need to be tight on that back end click ratchet there. That's going in the wrong direction. That's tight. I think I'll just tighten it up a little bit more. That's all. It's iterative. That should be fine. Let's do the same on this one. So I don't know if this had anything to do with it. We saw when we opened it up that these were loose and laying there. So I don't know what may or may not have happened with that. But we're in good condition with that right now. All right, when we took this off, we just noticed that there's a big spring. On this side, there's the pressure plate and the bearing. You want to make sure that these are clean. Let's go ahead and do that. Check the bearing, it's working nicely. And I want to pull this spool out now if I can. I can. Because I want to get to the back of it. So to service the reel completely, you want to pull the shaft off. I'm going to just pull this. This is a mess, however that was wound up there. Probably something happened with that anti-reverse, and this probably got messed up, and then somebody just decided we're just going to leave the reel be. That's why you don't leave parts on the table. They tend to fall apart and come out on you. All right, that's tight. I'm just going to line this by hand back. So lever drag reels have been around a while. I'm thinking this one was probably made in the 1960s, maybe 70s. I probably should have done some homework on it. I just don't see these Finor reels that much. Finor was a company that was made, started manufacturing reels. They were a machine shop down in Miami, Florida in the 1930s. And, well, Finor is the start of both of the founders' names. I think it was Finley and Norwood or something close to that. Again, I probably should have done a little bit more work there. But, yeah, 1930s. And these reels competed with the Penn International Series reels. Well, we saw that there was a spring under here, like that. And we know that there's a bearing on this side of the pressure plate. That's the assembly there. I'm going to take that spring out. Now I'm going to push this axle shaft through because there should be a bearing on this side as well. There's another tension washer that's in here. Maybe one more. Again, it's hard to tell. But I want to clean up in here. So let's take a paper towel. Let's go back and use that penetrating oil again. Maybe even buff it with the steel wool. This is old grease, so I don't know how long this has been working. This is your click ratchet. These little dimples in here. There's a firing pin on the inside of the reel. And that firing pin is going to be popping in and out of that divot there, if you will. And that's what's going to give us the noise that you're in free spool or backpedaling. This is your noisemaker right here. Well, there's nothing in the back here. I'm just going to clean the inner shell. And that's going to seat this back end of the axle shaft. Just clean your axle shaft off. Got a couple more washers here. Let's go put those on. You can put a light coating of grease because that axle shaft is going to pass through the center of the spool, and just reinstall. And then put some grease into the back where that axle shaft is going to mesh with the case. And then we can reinstall that whole piece. This is a cork. Probably should have mentioned that. This is a cork drag washer, and it seems to be in fine shape. I'm just running my fingers over it. It's got some bite to it, and it's seemingly in good condition, so we don't need to worry there. Let's go ahead and put the spring on. We'll clean the click ratchet. I've got to install the 2 anti-reverse dogs. Okay, now that we solved the anti-reverse dog piece, let's see if we can't reinstall our main gear and hopefully solve that issue, which was stuck. Again, check all of your teeth, make sure that they're uniform and clean. These are beautiful gears. That would make sense. The Finware company started out as a machine shop. I think these might be stainless, I'm not quite sure. I did, while I was taking a break there, I did try to find the schematic and could not find it. So this is where pictures and everything become important. Let's put that gear back in, see if we can make that work a little bit. Oh, went in nice and easy compared to coming out. Let's just grab that with the handle. Oh, it turns like a joy. Don't even need the handle anymore. So we've fixed the issue with this being frozen there. Let's go ahead now and put this back on. Well, pop those off. Let's take the wings of these. They split the teeth and they go in this way. And when we go to put this on now, we're going to try and line the 2 holes there with the 2 posts on the side plate here. And we want to mesh the gear on this to the gear that we just installed. Let's see what we can do here. And if this is not on camera, I'll kind of apologize for that. Well, I'm not off terribly, so let's see if we can come off 1 tooth. That wasn't bad. Move this back one. Let's try that again. When you find your posts, you need to make sure that the holes of the anti-reverse dogs fit over those before you go much further. If you try to force these down, you'll probably wind up with what happened before, where that dog came loose. There we go. All right, we're set now. So we have a main gear. When you're turning that main gear, these dogs should come out. And then when you back it off, they should come in. They're doing that. It's just a little bit hard for my hand to do that. Okay, let's take all of this and I think what I want to do now is I want to put that handle on to hold the main gear. We had the little ring that went on first, and we had the bigger ring. Now we have the handle. And we have the handle nut. Now you could probably install this without doing this piece, but I just want to make sure that I'm holding that main gear firm. And now you can see we've got a main gear that's turning, and we have the dogs that are pulling in as needed on the anti-reverse. Okay, so next step then, we've got two things going on here. We have this harness lug. You don't need that at the moment. So let's just put this back on. I'm concerned that we have those screws that are either stripped or stripped out, but we'll do our best in terms of reinstalling those. Take our main assembly now, just place that in. This glove is just okay. Let's go reinstall this now that we have it. Here's your main gear. You want to aim that for your shallowed out part here. Bring all of this together, rotate it. That's a relatively simple line up there. We're off just a little bit here from what I can see in the sections. Now we have that cap that goes behind. And I'm going to go for that big harness lug screw, because that was one of the ones that was holding in place. So I want to see if we can't get that one in first. The others, as I mentioned, they seemed a little stripped out. One or two holding it. We certainly would like a lot more than one or two. There we go. That one's in. I think I'm seeing the issues here. Looks like we have two different size screws. Get this one down. This one down. So when I was trying to remove these two screws here, those are actually the points that those anti-reverse dogs are sitting on. That's why they weren't going anywhere in terms of being removed. Not a big deal. Trying to find the right hole there. I was trying to put that screw into the ones that are holding that piece that we took off with the pliers before. Okay. Next step is to put that trim ring on. Now that's got a click. There's a little click on the back of this. Okay, we just finished putting that track on. Let's take the ramp now, put that in. This is going to hook over the top of that ramp, and then it's going to line up with the stud on the adjuster. And we have that little water seal that goes in the middle here, and the adjuster bar on. This is the preset adjuster. And I always recommend that when you do this, that you set your preset in the off position. Let's make sure we're in the off. Let's turn that off. We have a nice free spinning reel. Let's see if we can get this to lock in now. So we're in free spool. Okay, we don't have any adjustment yet, so let's bring it back to free spool. Just keep doing it till it locks in. There we go. All right, so bring it back to free spool. Make sure you're in free spool. Go to first strike. I would probably need a little bit more adjustment. Crazy. Free spool, first strike. Now you can see we're turning the handle full, and we're locked in. Back to free spool. And again, you can set this to whatever's right for you on the first strike, second strike. Again, you need to make sure your handle's turning. And then all the way over, you should be able to be locked in. We're locked in on this one. There you go. I'm going to just make it a little bit tighter, see how we do. Again, free spool, first strike. That's a pretty good first strike. That's an absolute good maximum drag strike. So what did we learn? We learned that we had a frozen main gear, and well, you can't get anything to turn. When we took it off, we're not quite sure if that dog was just floating in there or whether that was just a matter of the removal, but we showed you how to reset the dogs. We showed you how the mechanics of the reel works. This free spool is pulling the spool to that pressure plate and applying that against the drag washer that's set on the spool, and we found out that it's a very quality reel. So right now I have this thing just kind of on the top here. I think this is the first set, which is kind of a minor. Oh, we're in, there we go. So that's your first set for no noise. And then if you flip it 90 degrees, that's the noise from the cavities that you saw before. I don't like the noise, so we'll leave that bait alert off. Free spool, first strike, max drag, can't move that guy. All right, we're set. Well, that was fun. The Finor 30 Lite with a problem that it wasn't engaging. We took it apart. We found out that it was the main gear that was kind of all grease choked and the like. Cleaned it all up, re-lubed it all. This one's ready to go fishing again with a second chance. I hope you've enjoyed that. And to our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for all it is that you do to keep us safe. To everyone, please stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.